If you like the idea of setting clear intentions for yourself or for your business for the coming year, but the whole idea of vision boarding feels a little vague or mystical or complicated, I feel you, and this video is for you. I've been a graphic designer focusing on branding and identity for 15 years now, and mood boarding is my favorite part of the process. I love starting a new project, thinking about a clear vision for the overall mood and atmosphere of the project, and then whittling down to really specific elements and details that will guide the rest of the project. A couple of years ago, I realized that creating a vision board at the beginning of the year is not really much different than when I make a mood board at the beginning of a project. And when I shifted my thought process and started treating it as though I was making a really intentional mood board for a project, but treating myself as my own client, it totally changed the game. It became really fun. It became one of my favorite days of the year. And somehow it took it away from feeling like this sort of vague and kind of woo-woo mystical thing to a really practical exercise in the same way that I do every time I start a new project. Obviously, the idea of creating a vision board for your year is not exactly new, and there are a lot of really great resources of people sharing their experiences and their process. But I haven't quite heard someone approach it in the way that I do, so I thought I might walk you through my process of how I treat this like a client mood board in case it might help you a bit or strike a chord with you too. The important thing about a mood board is that it's not just about like grabbing a bunch of pretty pictures that you think you like the look of, or that if I look at a photo of a pile of money long enough that it will magically appear in front of me. The purpose of a mood board is to give focus and clarity for the project ahead, so that everyone is on the same page and you have the same vision of where you're headed, both on the macro level, the vibe and the atmosphere and the feeling of the project, and then specific elements that represent how you're going to create solutions for those specific details. A good mood board is a visual map, so that if you're 5 months along in a project and you're a little bit hazy about what the point actually was, you can come back to it and really quickly get back to center. You can remember what the overall vision was, and it can help you make decisions. Every time you're facing a choice when you're farther down the project, all you have to do is take that choice and line it up to your mood board. It gives you a really clear filter for every decision point and individual thing you have to choose in the project. You can really hold it up against that map and say, does this align with the overall vision of the project? That's what makes a good mood board. And it's not really any different for life. Because you've taken the time to create this visual map at the beginning, every decision becomes easier. From there on out, all you have to do is hold each choice you have to make up to the mood board and ask yourself which solution would be best in line with the vision. Simple. It's really helpful when you're designing a project, but it's not really much different in real life. By spending a few hours at the beginning of the year thinking about what you want the next season to look like for yourself or for your business or for your side gig or whatever, thinking about what you want it to look like and feel like or embody for the next season, you're narrowing your focus and getting clear on your priorities. And you're giving yourself a map so that later on down the year when you're feeling a little bit fuzzy, you have something to come back to and remember where you were going. The goal is to make something that feels really clear and specific, within reach, and inspiring enough to help keep you on track and keep bringing you back to focus. That's why I think it's really fun to think about this for your life. Okay, so a good mood board for any project has a few key elements, and this is true for our yearly mood board too. First, you want a few images that convey the overall vibe, the mood, the atmosphere, attitude, the feeling that you want the thing to convey. Not just getting really specific with details, but some images that evoke an emotional response. In this case, you want images that represent the mood and the mental space that you want to bring into this year. How do you want this year to feel? What values do you want to bring to focus? Are there any quotes or words or phrases that you want to help kind of guide the year? If you like choosing a word for the year, put that word into a Pinterest search and pick an image that represents the feeling that that word gives you. You want at least one image that represents that word visually so that you can really feel it. Next, in a project mood board, you'd want a few images that represent what the main elements of the brand could look like. In this case, things that represent the atmosphere and the experiences that you want to surround yourself with in this year. What do you want to have walked away experiencing? These could be habits or specific events you want to do or things you want to achieve. What do you want to fill your time with? These could be hobbies or things you want to be sure that you do. What do you want your space to look and feel like? This isn't just about slapping up a photo of your dream home. This is about what you want your current space and environment to really feel like and look like. Next, for a project mood board, you'd want a few images that represent the audience of the brand and how you're going to engage with it. In this case, that's your relationships with other people and your inner and personal life. What do you want to see in relationships with other people this year? What do you want to see for your relationship with yourself? What do you want to bring more of into your life? Finally, a good mood board gives clear examples of how you're going to tackle specific elements within the brand. So how you might treat type or packaging or color. In this case, that translates to any specific goals that you have that you want to remind yourself of. Do you have any career goals or financial goals for the next year? Is there anything you've been saving up for? Do you have anywhere you'd specifically like to go or anything you'd specifically like to do? Do you have any wellness or health goals? Do you have any specific milestones that you want to reach? Any of these specific goals that you want to be sure are represented in some way that you can keep focused on and remember these are how you want to tackle these specific things within the year. I think the key is to have a blend of specific things that you can kind of lock into more tangibly, but also the overall essence and vibe that you want to choose as you're making your decisions throughout the year. Since I've started doing this, I've noticed that not only does it help me keep on track with the specific things that I want to see happen, but it also helps me have the right attitude throughout the year as I'm thinking about things I want to do or saying yes to stuff. It helps me kind of keep in the right headspace. So that's the goal. With that, I hop onto Pinterest and I type in words that can kind of pull up some of those more abstract concepts and then represent things really visually for specific goals that I have. I also like going on to stock photography websites. I did a whole video breaking down my favorite stock photography websites and which ones I want to use moving forward. As a spoiler, I settled on Pexels as my favorite kind of go-to site. And I also really love Kaboom Pics for these really kind of vibey, cool girl images. So I'm going to hang out on that site a lot when I'm looking for this year's sort of essence photos, because I think I can find some things that are really going to speak to me there. You might want to check it out if you haven't. From there, you can take your images and dump them onto Adobe Illustrator or Canva or Milanote or any space you want to use as your kind of blank canvas to lay them out. I'm just starting this process for myself this year, but this is the one I made last year. I really loved it, and it was really helpful as a sort of framework to come back to throughout the year. I put it as the backdrop on my computer, so every morning I would see it, and even subconsciously just having it in my field of vision all of the time, it really helped. My word for the year was wonder, and I really wanted to keep this idea of joy and magic and excitement as I was building a lot of things. I had a lot of big projects that I really wanted to tackle for the year. And at the beginning of the year, I felt like I was getting really locked in to all of the things on my to-do list and the stuff that I needed to do, and it felt really heavy. I wanted to remind myself to have an air of exuberance and joy and excitement in the process. So I wanted images that had a little bit of magic and whimsy in them. One of my favorite things to do in mood boards is to add in some 3D elements that create these sort of physical, textural components to the mood board. I love adding materials that feel really tangible. And in this case, I wanted to remind myself that I wanted to make a lot of art. I wanted to play and get my hands dirty. And so I had things like chalk and paint smears because I really wanted to keep that idea throughout the whole year. In addition to just having some images that created that idea of play and joy and creation, I also added some specific images to sort of remind me of the person I wanted to be. These are specific women throughout history who really inspire me, and they inspire me because all of them are really exuberant and they were fully themselves. They were completely alive, they were completely their own personality and their own style. They were unapologetically themselves. Just looking at someone like Iris Apfel on a regular basis helped bring me back to center and remind me of who I actually wanted to be. There were some times throughout the year where just seeing her face on my computer screen helped me remember what I was trying to do and make some decisions about how I wanted to represent myself. On top of that, I added in some images that were maybe a little abstract, but they reminded me of specific goals that I had for the year. One of my goals for the year was to start taking pottery classes. I didn't actually do it, but my first class is scheduled for this week, so I'm counting it. I wanted things that reminded me about my reading goals and my financial goals for the year. Not everything has to be a literal one-for-one. They just need to be images that remind you of the intention that you have. I was also making the decision to launch this YouTube channel. Honestly, the process of putting yourself out on the internet is pretty intimidating, and I wanted a few words that specifically helped me remember what the point was. And on those days when I was feeling a little bit shaky, they would help kind of bring me back to center and give me some courage. And it actually worked. This board was a good mixture of overall vision casting and sort of vibe building, but also some specific references to help point me in directions when I needed a kick in the butt. I'm really looking forward to seeing what I come up with this year, but I would love to see what you do. I'd love to know if the idea of taking this vision casting thing and making it into a mood boarding process is actually useful. I'd love to hear if you do this, and please, if you do, send me a photo. I'd love to see it. Overall, I'm wishing you a fantastic, creative, joyful 2025, and I genuinely can't wait to see what you create this year. See you next time.